What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Weisz.
Dr. Jeremy Weisz here. I am the founder and host of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. And this is a special episode. I am actually interviewing founders and CEOs live at the Sweets and Snacks Show. And so check it out. We have some amazing companies featured. Check this episode out. And before I get to that, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream 100 relationships. How do we do that? We help you run your podcast. We are an easy button for an organization or business to launch and run your podcast. I've been podcasting for over a decade now. You know, for me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way to do that than to profile the people and the companies I most admire, feature them on my podcast, and shout from the rooftops what they're working on and what they're doing. So if you've thought about starting a podcast, you should. If you have questions, you can go to rise25.com or email us support@rise25.com to learn more. Now, check out today's episode. Live from the Sweet and Snack Show. All right, Jeremy Weisz here. We're here live at the Sweets and Snack Show. I'm here, as you can see, Bart and Judy's. These look amazing, for one. And Bart, talk about the company and some of the products. And we have Bart and Judy here.
Hi,
what are your favorites, Judy?
Oh, I love the peanut butter. I'm really big on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So our peanut butter really tastes like peanut butter. It's real peanut butter, of course.
Yeah, what makes our cookies unique is that, number one, they're all natural. We use the highest quality ingredients available to mankind. Belgian chocolate, Madagascar vanilla, real butter. We use Dairy Gold butter, which is from a dairy co-op in upstate Washington. No preservatives, no chemical additives with a 14-month shelf life. I'm an inventor. My background is engineering, and we developed over the first 3 years the way to preserve the product without chemicals. And we're the only people in the country, and as far as I know, the world, that can do this. So we have delicious. We produce it all ourselves in-house. We have our own tunnel ovens and form, fill, and seal equipment. We produce about 1 million cookies a day. And it's just for people who love chocolate chips, people who love peanut butter, people who love, we have 5 other flavors that we're introducing over time. And we have gluten-free, which we developed our own gluten-free flour, which we actually blend in-house. We're the only people, I think, that do this. Most people buy, at least most producers of cookies, purchase a general purpose flour. That's not good enough for us. We use a flour specialty that we produce for ourselves. So in other words, the gluten-free cookie tastes exactly identical to our regular wheat-based cookie.
That's a rarity, too. I want to hear about some of your inventions throughout the years, but before we get to that, tell me about the idea. You were saying you were moving from Cleveland to LA. Okay. Where'd the idea come from?
Here's the story. So I'm older than you. I'm older than you were before your parents were even glows in your parents' eyes. The first product I developed, which is pretty incredible, I call it beginner's luck. It was chosen one of the 100 most significant products developed in the world the year I developed it. And that goes back to 1969. It's a impact recorder, a little device, looks about like a household fuse, an old-fashioned household fuse that you can monitor, put on any product in any orientation, and it monitors the shocks and impacts that occur to products. So they're used on rental cars, they're used on rail cars, they're used on packaging. If you're shipping a sensitive product like a gyroscope for the Mark 48 torpedo, that's one of our largest customers, it shows whether the gyroscope received a shock or impact over its fragility. What that means is if you can drop something, a computer or anything, from 3 feet, and it works, but you drop it from 3.5 feet and it doesn't work, that becomes your fragility factor, and we could actually calibrate our little devices called protector packs by forces of gravity. And then that took me to, that was started in 1969, and mid-1970s, I developed a temperature recorder used to monitor the fresh fruits and vegetables when they're being shipped from the packers to the marketplaces, and that's what brought us from Cleveland to California, because 80% of the produce business in America comes from the San Joaquin Valley and Imperial Valley and Rio Grande Valley, so going all the way down the west coast to Texas, the Rio Grande River? Rio Grande River. It's not a lake. So Judy and I moved from Cleveland to LA because we were booking flights, actual booked flights for our temperature recorders going to the markets in California. So it was done as a convenience, and it so happens that I had a friend in Los Angeles. He said, well, why don't you move your company here? At that time, we only had 22 employees, and I said, well, it's impossible. I don't have anyone to help me. He said, well, I'll quit my job. I'll help you, which in long story short, that's exactly what he did. And in a matter of 3 weeks, we had moved everything, lock, stock, and barrel, to Los Angeles, and he had set up the facility for us in LA. And that was the main transition. Then we sold our companies in the mid-'80s, and I wanted to determine what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I had done the American dream, inventor, develop a popular product, and then sort of retire next to the ocean, at least with.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
It was great. It was great for the first 2 months.
But an inventor, always an inventor, so you're always coming up with something.
I like to feel involved. I think that's the basis of a happy life, is being in love and feeling involved. So luckily I have both. Judy's an incredible person. We were lying in bed on a Sunday morning. This goes back to 2008, and our sons were in the business for a period of time, but it doesn't really work out with father and 2 sons, we found out. And so I was looking to get out of the business and go transition myself, and Judy said, what do you really want to do? So I really want to do chocolate chip cookies, not because the famous Amos cookies were good, but I related to the happiness. He was a Hollywood celebrity agent. He worked for William Morris, and I really liked that idea, but he got together investors, and they underwrote his chocolate chip cookies, and he ended up being owned by the investors because I guarantee one thing, that if I gave you $4 million in cash, that you could figure out a way to make a buck, right?
Hopefully.
Okay, well, he wasn't. And so he lost the rights to his own company, he lost his likeness, he lost everything. But he was given a job, and his investors turned around and sold out to Keebler, which took a decent cookie. I'm not going to say it was great, but he used to serve them warm, just like we do here. He used to serve them warm out of a kiosk in Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. And they were all delicious. But the cookie changed, and Judy and I recognized it. And when Judy said, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to make chocolate chip cookies, because it's all about propagating happiness. It's all about propagating love. And that's sort of transformed, because she said, well, let's do it. And I said, well, you can't trust a co-packer. I like to do everything myself. So we're probably one of a dozen companies in the country that do our own baking and our own packaging. And she said, well, let's do it. I said, well, there's one thing separating us. We need $2 million. So fortunately, we had built a house on the ocean in LA, and it's a piece of art. And Judy said, unusual for anybody. She said, let's sell the house. So long story short, we'll go 3 weeks forward. We sold the house, gave us the money to buy our own tunnel oven, own form, fill, and seal equipment, mixing equipment, and everything else that we need. And we set up a facility in Los Angeles, hired initially, there were 9 employees. We started baking the cookies, with the only caveat being that I'm very insecure. And as an inventor, entrepreneur, I think everyone is sort of insecure. You're always worried, well, will I make a buck, or will I be able to support my family? Because it'd be tremendous embarrassment if we were to go in business, then out of business.
Well, I mean, you sold your house also.
We sold our house. You know what? We actually lived in a bus. We bought a 1951 flexible Visicoach. It's one of the old-fashioned flexible buses with the round rear end, no windows in the back, and we converted it to a home, or we call it a PAV, personal adventure vehicle. And we spent a year and a half rebuilding it, and turned it into a piece of art. Painted it Elvis Presley 1952 Cadillac pink and gold.
I want to see the picture of that on the packaging at some point or somewhere. That's amazing. I'll have to check it out.
I've got a picture. I've got my passport. So I'm getting ready to leave town now. On my phone, incredible. I've got a picture.
We'll check it out.
It's really rare. So we lived in that for 18 months while we set up the facility. We actually, when we got the facility, we parked in the parking lot. We ran an extension cord from the facility to our bus, and we lived in there 24/7 while we were setting the place up. But I have always felt a little insecure about everything that I do, but we've done something unusual. There's no plan B. We only operate on a plan A, move ahead. And I found that my only protection in life from day one with product development has been to be the best in the category of trade. So if you're the best, there's always a market for your product. You may have to compromise the price, you may have to compromise something, but you never compromise your quality, you never compromise your vision. So it's what this started out as, and actually what it turned out to be. We just take one step forward. Our cookies are provided on Amtrak nationwide in all the box lunches and dinners. And we service, I was on QVC, sold 1.3 million cookies in 7.5 minutes. I had a record. Yes.
Bart, where can we send them? What's the website? Where can people check out and learn more?
Bart and Judy's Bakery, or I'm sorry, bartandjudys.com or bartsbakery.com, or I think we have about 4 or 5 domains. Yeah. We also do the cookies for vending. And one unusual thing is that with our cookies, they're highly unusual because you actually decant the cookies 2 minutes before you start eating them. They're like a fine red wine. You have to let them reoxygenate, and then the flavor enhances automatically. It's really beautiful.
A lot of life lessons. Thank you so much. Live from the Sweet and Snack Show.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.